that's why human design is so important right now. I feel like it's, being an MG, it's the hack, it's the shortcut, it's the way that we can get to a place of living full permission ourselves, our authenticity.
Hello. Welcome, High Vibin It homies, back to another epic episode on one of your favorite topics, human design, which I was just explaining to Miss Emma, our lovely guest, who I'm going to introduce you to in a moment, that we are nowhere near human design experts, but we are very much human design enthusiasts. We've done a couple episodes with different human design experts at this point, and we just love learning about it because it feels so validating, empowering, also a very fun rabbit hole for anyone who likes studying. I'm a 5'1", so I like to dive deep into things and learn everything I can about things. So we're really excited to introduce you guys to our guest. But before that, if you're new to the show, welcome. My name is Kelsey Aida. I'm an author. I teach manifestation, self-love. We're just here to help you live your best life. And my co-host, Lindsay Robinson, is a hypnotherapist extraordinaire. Yes.
Hypnotherapist extraordinaire, helping you dive deep into the subconscious mind.
She says you're friendly neighborhood hypnotherapist, but I'm like
it.
Girl, that doesn't give you enough credit. You're like world-renowned extraordinaire
because
hypnotherapist.
It's like Spider-Man. He's fun. I love Spider-Man.
Well, so I can still be fun.
I stole it from Marvel, and hypnotherapy is very fun.
Anyway, you can tell that Lindsay and I bicker like sisters, and we love each other.
Well, no, we
just
sisters. I don't think we've ever bickered. Maybe
not bigger, but
I only have like really older sisters, and I've always been like the youngest, so whatever. Does that mean I'm the brat?
Anyway, our new soul sister, Emma Dunwoody, is the host of one of the best, #1 actually global human design podcasts. She's a human design expert. She's a master coach. She's a behavioral specialist. And we could just not be more excited to geek out with her on human design. We also learned, of course, who's going to be surprised that she's a fellow manifesting generator, because we always be attracting fellow MGs out here. And I think probably just a lot of people in the space of teaching and podcasting just happen to be manifesting generators. So it's like double whammy in that aspect. But Emma, thank you for being here.
Wow, thanks for having me. In Australia, we call what you guys do banter. It's banter. It's not bickering, it's banter. It's just like having a crack at each other in jest, but having a bit of fun while you do it. Like, yeah, it's pretty cool.
Banter. Had to say it like that too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Kelsey's not wrong. It's gotten to the point where everyone on the podcast, no matter what they come for, at some point, and the audience can go back and find these, she will say to every guest, wait, what's your human design? Or she'll guess, and she's usually right.
I always know a fellow manifesting generator after talking to them or just seeing a picture of them or feeling into their vibes for like 5 seconds. I'm like, have you ever heard of human design? And they'll be like, yes or no. And then I'll be like, well, if you haven't, you're a manifesting generator. Go look it up. And if you have, and then they tell me they're a manifesting generator, I'm like, classic. Yeah. Called it. Yeah. Takes one to know one.
It is really fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Emma, can you kind of go in, for those that don't know, like how you got into this? I mean, I'm sure, just tell us what you want us to know. You've been doing this for so long, but like what kind of got the spark lit and got you really interested in this kind of work, and then how it flowed into what you do now?
Yeah, so it's a long story, so I'll give you the short version, but like over 20 years ago, I was diagnosed with depression and panic disorder. And at that time, I was given a diagnosis that was basically, you'll learn to live with this and manage it, but you'll never be able to heal it. And I was in such a dark place and had been for a number of years. I'd, considered taking my own life. So that diagnosis just wasn't an option for me. I was like, well, I'm either going to just end it or I'm going to find a way to heal myself. It was this call to the hero's journey, this call to really understanding who I was and why I do what I do. And I just knew at that time that if I could work out how I got into that chair, like into that diagnosis, then I could work out how to get out of it. Still to this day, I'm like, wow, the insight I had back then and being in such a low place in my life, the fact that I even trusted it, like, thank goodness, something bigger than me was, really guiding me in that direction. And that was kind of the catalyst for this long journey to really understand human behavior. Why do I do the things that I do, and how can I change what I do to create a reality, a life that just feels like a dream come true? And so that kind of started me on this journey of understanding transformation, human behavior, neuroscience, understanding the brain and how it is actually malleable and we can change it. Understanding that, I had learnt depression and anxiety, in my lineage. I had learnt how to do these things, and that I'd created them completely unconsciously for a purpose. So this set me on a really long journey of completely healing my mental health, but also transforming every area of my life. And after transitioning out of an advertising career, successful advertising career, into becoming a master coach, I created my coaching business practice. It was growing. Everything else in my life had changed. My health had improved. My mental health had healed. I had healed my marriage at the time. We had moved to cities. Everything had improved tenfold, except I still felt like there was a hole inside of me. And I just wanted to know what that was. Like, what is this missing piece? I felt there was this missing piece that I was looking for. And as part of that mission to discover what I languaged as my purpose, because I felt like it was this part that was missing, I went off and I walked a pilgrimage, an 800-kilometer walk in Spain called the Camino, to really discover, who am I and why am I here? I really needed to know what is my purpose. And I kind of got to the end of that, and so many things had changed and transformed, and my confidence and my courage and all of these incredible things, the love for myself, all of these things had massively amplified, but I still felt like there was something missing. Just before I got on the plane to come home, I said to the universe, I was like, okay, dude, we need to talk. I really need to know what this missing piece is. Like, you need to be so obvious. Like, you need to smack me in the face with it. And whatever it is, I promise I will commit to it in some way, shape, or form, so that, so that I can actually heal this hole. So I get home from Spain, and within a 48-hour period, all of a sudden, human design is everywhere for me. And back in 2018, no one knew what human design was. No one was talking about it. It was not a thing. So it was really weird that it showed up. Now, I'd actually been introduced to it 3 times before and kept putting it down. As a behavioral coach, the language was, it's very negative. So I'm like, well, that's not helping. Put it down. I didn't like what they wrote about being a line 3. I'm a 3/5 profile. So I put it down. Another time I decided I wanted to be a projector, not a manifesting generator. So I put it down. But this time I'd made this commitment to the universe. So as an obedient manifesting generator, I just responded. And with that response, I Googled the best human design teacher in Australia. And that person, there was really only one, and she lived 1 suburb away from me. And I was like, okay, this is not a coincidence. And I went and I met with Kim, and basically I gave her my details. She looked at my chart, and no one had ever, ever, ever seen me as clearly as this woman I did not know was seeing me in that moment. She picked things that people did not know about me. So that was the beginning. That was the beginning of my human design experiment. I learned as much as I could. I experimented with everything. I introduced it into my business, which was really challenging for me because it was pretty woo. I sit very much in the middle. I have always been very spiritual, but I didn't admit to it. I was still very much in the spiritual closet. And my business was very around behavioral research, performance, NLP, all of these things that had a lot of backing. And once I started introducing it to my clients as well, the results were incredible. So I just ran my experiment, kept my promise to the universe, and I suppose I just watched as my life unfolded out in front of me, beyond my wildest dreams. And today I don't feel like I work, yet I have a very successful, multiple 7-figure business. My team feel like my best friends. I live in the best place on earth. I travel all year round. My life is a dream come true. So that is actually probably the long version. Sorry.
No,
That's what we want.
For it.
It's so funny, Kelsey. I know you're going to talk about this, and I hope you do, but I heard you basically repeating the same thing from my story, same things from Kelsey's story. I mean, I know the parts, Kels, that you were like, oh, yeah, that's me. And like for me, when I looked up hypnotherapy, like the place that I wanted to study that I thought was the best one happened to be down the street for me in Los Angeles. Like Los Angeles is not small. So that kind of thing, and Australia is not a small place. So it's like those kinds of things, those breadcrumbs really, like you can't deny it at that point. And I'm the same. I'm a little bit skeptical. I'm a little bit like, I still want to explain things away, but certain things, like I need it to be so obvious that I'm blown away. And I think that's kind of, yeah, that's what happened to you. That's what happened to me. And I know Kelsey has a lot of similarities with you as well with her journey to do what she does.
Yeah. And I was thinking too, when you were talking about the Camino, we just had another guest on, Elizabeth Ralph. She teaches spiritual investing. And
she's one of my best friends, and I walked the Camino with her. She
oh, you guys went together. That's amazing.
Like, okay, we love her.
Time. That's the second time I walked it. So yeah,
okay, she's great. Wow. Well, no wonder we just love you both so much.
Yeah. Welcome to the club. Excited to talk with you more, but. Yeah, human design, man. So I guess I want to ask, how has learning your design, obviously you said implementing it into your business and life helps so much, but maybe like fast forward to today, what are some aspects of your design that you're like leaning into more or embracing more, or are you just like not really working with your chart so much anymore because you're like a master of human design? Like tell us your journey with it that's like more recent.
Well, more recent. I don't work a lot with my design these days because ultimately what my human design has done for me and, what I empower, it to do for other people is that it's given me full permission to be me. It's taught me to trust me. It's taught me to trust my own authority. It's taught me to trust the breadcrumbs that are put in front of me. It's taught me to trust the way I do things, who I'm being, my identity. So I don't necessarily use it like I used to. Now, in the beginning, this little line 3 was experimenting all the time. However, having said that, where I use it is where I notice, I really do live in this place now. I've done a lot of work to raise my consciousness. So I live in a place where it's pretty like peace, love, and harmony over here 99.9% of the time. So what happens is when something isn't like that, and I get stuck in it, it's not just something that's ready to, be felt, like it's just something that needs to be felt and released. When I get stuck in it, that's when I'll go to my design. And I'll give you an example. I separated from my husband last year. We are, in the divorce process right now. And, in the whole big scheme of things, it's been pretty, low drama, pretty easy. However, I've noticed that there are certain behaviors that I'm doing. And, again, I'm a behavioral coach. I get the brain. I understand my imprint. I know from a human design perspective, I've got an open G center. So I know that I potentially have a wound of feeling unlovable, which is true. And which for many years in my marriage, I kind of just ignored because I was married, So I was like, see, I must be lovable because we're married. Whereas now that we're separated, it's given me this opportunity to really look into that part of me, that undefined center, and go, okay, well, really what's going on in there? What is my conditioning in there? So first, that was the first thing. It really helped to lead me in that direction. Now, the second thing, sorry, my phone's ringing. The second thing is there are more specific parts of our chart that we can really look at. And I use the gene keys a lot as well. And there's a specific place in the gene keys in the Venus sequence. In human design, it is our design moon. In the gene keys, we call it our attraction sphere. So this is the place that it's a big player when it comes to relationships. And I've got the 53. And the shadow of the 53 is immaturity. And like as soon as I look at that, I'm like, oh, boom, that's what's going on. Like I am in my shadow. I am operating from immaturity. And the gift of the 53 is expansion, and the acidic state is superabundance. And the whole reason that we split up is because I want to expand. I want to shoot for the stars. I want to see the potential that lies within me. So my human design really helps me go, oh, wow, I just slipped right into my shadow over here. I've just slipped into immaturity. He's doing immaturity. Like my energy, I'm seeing my energy play out in somebody else. So even if I'm being, mature, he's not being mature. So the ways that I use it is like when I get stuck in the mud, where is there something in my design that's going to help lead me out of it? Because instantly once I see that, I'm like, oh my God, this is just a growth moment. This is an expansion moment. Who do I want to be? How can I give more love to myself? What's really going on here? So I can ask myself much better questions that are going to help me navigate through the healing process and then ultimately the expansion.
Here for that. Sounds extremely helpful. Lindsay, I think you're muted.
Yeah, I have kids here, man. Okay.
You're good.
No, we do have an episode on gene keys. It's another one that's super fascinating. And I think it's very interesting how you can get to a certain level where you can use them both together. I think we should be using them both together, but I just feel like it's way more complicated. I'm just getting into like, I just feel like I'm like, if human design is a horse, it stopped bucking me off. So now I'm like cautiously riding the horse, and I'm just terrified, for another thing to like confuse me. But I think it's a process. I mean, you've been doing this for so long, and if anyone else feels the way I feel, like, just take it slow. I'm going to take it slow with human design and look at my gene key chart and try to make sense of it. But I think that's so cool. That is a new goal of mine, to be able to use them both together, because it's just so interesting.
Well, the thing I just want to respond to there is that, it's only your mind getting confused. I think this is the big thing for me. It's natural for me because I'm a line 3. So I'm kind of used to messiness. I'm kind of used to working it out and experimenting and being like, if I poke this, what happens? Or if I do this, what happens? So one of the best descriptions of human design in the gene keys that I heard was actually a discussion between Kim that I mentioned earlier and Richard Rudd, who created the gene keys. And human design is like the masculine. It's the structure, it's the skeleton, it's the form, if you like. And then the gene keys is all the meat on the bones. It's the skin, it's the facial expression, it's the feminine. It gives it the flow. And really, your human design is going to inform you via your authority. And I think you're a sacral authority. So all you've got to do is follow what lights you up. Like, what do you have energy for? If you have energy for human design and not the gene keys, then just go with human design, because eventually, or at some point when it's correct for you, you'll be like, all of a sudden I've got energy for the gene keys. And that's the whole point. Like, just trusting the process. You don't have to do anything. It doesn't have to look like anybody else's path. It just has to be your path.
Oh, I like that. See, that's great. I need to really stop forcing stuff.
I'm sensing a theme to this conversation of trusting oneself, right? Mm-hmm. So you mentioned this is coming back up again. So I want to just like lean into that. When it comes to using human design, using human design to manifest your best life, whether that's in love, whether that's in business, whether that's in other relationships, whether that's in your home environment, whatever it is. How can people start like trusting, I guess, how they were made, trusting their own energy and their own ways of operating when maybe they're new to their design and they're like, well, I don't want to be like that, right? But like, that's how you are. Or maybe they like it, they're into it, but when they're just living their daily life, they just feel still so conditioned by their upbringing, society, whatever.
So at the end of the day, 95% of our behavior is unconscious, and that behavior for most people comes from who we decided to be between the ages of 0 to 7 to receive love, nurturing, and to belong. Because ultimately that's the adult that we become. The thing about the human brain is if you want it to change, it needs evidence, okay? So the beauty of human design is from the get-go, from the outset, it's always been an experiment, okay? So what's an experiment? An experiment means we take an action, we run a hypothesis, we get results. And something is, something works when we can continually repeat those results, okay? Then we know something works. That is like scientifically sound. So the best thing to do with human design is exactly that. We start with our strategy and authority. I talk about with our type, I talk about our signature and our not self, these two little indicators that are telling us when we're in alignment and when we're out of alignment. But strategy and authority, it's just about running that experiment, about saying, for Lindsay, okay, well, I have the simplest authority there is. That is the sacral response. Yes, I have energy for something. No, I don't. The biggest challenge for you is going to be the mind jumps in instantly after that and has a whole discussion about what it thinks about whether you do or don't have energy for something, especially a bit for you because you've got mental definition. And that mental definition means that your supercomputer is literally running programs all the time. It's just a constant, constant whirring of information going on up there. Now, how do people start to really run this in their life? And for the cynics, it's no different. I was cynical. I was super cynical when I came to it. But ultimately, I've always been results driven. So if this gives me results, and my results were, if this means I can minimize resistance, increase flow, feel like I'm on purpose and fulfilled, it helps me do the thing that I felt since I was tiny that I want to make an impact. Hello, line 5, or want to make a global impact. Then great, I'll just keep doing it. If I make better decisions, if I can effectively cut corners instead of taking this path my mind thinks I should take. So all you got to do is start experimenting, and you start small. I think one of the things that people sometimes do is they're like, well, I've just learned this thing, human design, and I need to go and buy a house or leave my husband or some really big decisions. And you're like, yeah, whoa, back up, because you don't have a relationship with your authority yet. You don't trust it. You're actually just blindly going into something and going, this could be it. I'm just going to take that advice from I don't know what. So you got to not do that. You got to start with something small. And I will often be like, if you're a sacral being, go out for dinner, look at the menu, and just see what your sacral responds to. Like, yep, I got energy for that. If you're an emotional authority, like you, Kelsey, in those moments, especially being a manifesting generator with emotional authority, like your sacral's pinging all the time, but instead just experiment with, all right, well, I have to make this decision about a guest on the podcast. Right now it feels like it's a yes, but I'm just going to sleep on it. I'm going to see how I feel 24 hours from now. And then notice how you feel, So you run the experiment on small things that don't have a big implication or you don't have a huge attachment to. And as you start to build the relationship with your strategy and authority, because obviously both of you are in response, as the biggest experiment you guys should be doing straight off the bat is informing and teaching people to inform you. I have 2 MG kids. I'm an MG. And our whole household just sounds like, hey, I'm just going to go do this. Hey, I'm thinking I'm going to go do that. Hey, I'm just, that's what we all sound like all the time. And everything flows really easily. So it's experimenting with these high-end pieces of your design, actually noticing when you get the results. Like I actually teach my people, you got to write that down in a journal. You got to show your brain that, look, this works. This is actually working. Look how my results are better. I've just actually released a book. It's going to go, it'll be available for you guys in the US next year. But it's available in Australia and UK and Europe. And the thing that I'm teaching in that all the time is look at the past. Go and have a look at when you made decisions from the gut. That would be you, Lindsay. And Kelsey, look at when you made decisions that over time and how much better they were, because you'll be able to find the evidence of your design. And then once you feel comfortable with that, follow where your enthusiasm goes. What do you want to learn more about? Is it your gates? Is it your incarnation cross? Is it the gene keys? Like, is there a particular gate that you're like, I'm really curious about that? And then the last part to the question that you asked that it's really important to respond to is for those people that come to human design and they're like, yeah, nah, don't like it, nah, not me, nah, and they just feel this really heavy resistance. That was me in the beginning. And what I noticed over not a very long period of time, that everything that I resisted in my design was where I was resisting being me, because my conditioning said that it was wrong, that I can't be that way and succeed in whatever area of my life I was looking at. So I was actually resisting myself. And I've now noticed over the years of working with thousands of people that this tends to be when we resist something specific about our design, it's the piece of ourselves we are resisting the most because it doesn't fit into the conditioning that was created, between 0 to 7 or what society says. And the moment that we actually get curious about it, learn to love this thing, we don't need to love it straight away. Just accept that, okay, this is the way I am. So my line 3 was the first place that I really wrestled with because I didn't like hearing that I'm going to be in trial and error all the time. Like I lived it every day, but I was like, no, surely I can fix that thing. And then I started to see it as a superpower because I am brave and courageous and I'm like, I'll just jump off any cliff. I'll try anything because I'm not afraid of failure. So that is the other thing that people really want to look out for is where you're resisting your design really hard. That's where you're really bumping up against your conditioning and resisting the truth of who you are.
Well,
That's
speaking of
juicy
resisting,
advice. Thank you. Lindsay, go ahead.
Yes, I love that. But I was thinking back to when you said you completely shunned the MG and wanted to be a projector. So what about the projector was like, that's what I want to do? I'm just curious, like what attracted you to projector and like, what did you repel that was the MG?
So the thing that that I really wanted to be around the projector. So in grade 2, I was diagnosed with dyslexia. That became a part of my identity that said I was stupid. Then from about the age of 30, when I really started to study the brain, I started to use my brain. I started to realize dyslexia was not a thing for me. Although, yes, I am dyslexic, it was not at all an impediment. I started to learn a lot. I became very intelligent. I'm very good at seeing people really clearly and deeply and seeing the patterns that other people don't see. So when I heard about a projector, I was like, that's me. Like, that's me. I'm not this MG that's kind of like flitting all over the place. And even I didn't feel like I was this big energy. I didn't feel like I was too much. But yet, once I actually leant into it, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so too much. I just make myself so much smaller for people. I make myself bite-sized for people. And I really started to realize that those skills that I have to see other people, they are deeper within my design. I absolutely have those skills. But I am, the projector piece of me, just because I'm a manifesting generator doesn't mean I can't be intellectual and super skilled at something and see really deeply into other people. So it was more about the manifesting generator felt big and messy and powerful and, like a force to be reckoned with. And I, at that time, I wasn't quite seeing myself as that yet. Whereas I think about myself today, and that's absolutely me. Like, I'm such an MG. I have a big energy. When I walk in the room, people know I walk in the room. Even though I'm an introvert, like, I can be the quietest person in the room, very magnetic, all of those things. But I was really rejecting those things about myself that I didn't even know were there at the time, to be honest.
Wow. We all want to be a design that we're not in the beginning, right? I thought that I was a manifester. I'm like, oh, I'm such a manifester.
Really
It's like initiating, always like going fast, all this stuff. And then when I like actually pulled up my chart, I was like, manifesting generator. I don't feel anything like a generator. I don't feel like I'm consistent or have consistent energy. I'm not a worker bee personality. Like, none of this is resonating. I don't understand. And yeah, it's just funny. I had a similar, I was like, no.
It sounds
like I was just going to say really quickly, like, just to respond to that, like, you actually have a direct channel to the throat. In fact, you've got 2, but one that comes straight from a motor. So you will tend to feel more like a manifester, and that, that feeling of inconsistent energy, that's your emotional authority. I'm the same. My entire life, my entire business is set up as a sprinter. I'm a sprinter. I don't want to be going all the time. I'm 100% a sprinter.
Can you talk about that a little more? So is there only the two different types, sacral and emotional, for everyone, no matter what type you are?
No. So there are a number of different authorities, but for manifesting generators, you're either going to be an emotional authority or a sacral authority. And if you're an emotional authority, then you're always in that wave. And, you know, how tired you are is going to be an implication on the downside of the emotional wave. Like most emotional people, even if you are an MG with a motor to the throat, and you have 3 motors, so you have a lot of doing energy, it's going to be inconsistent. You also have the 3420. It's the most powerful channel in the chart, but it's the multi-passionate. When we actually talk about manifesting generators doing a lot of things, a lot of the time the reference is back to that channel. So, you know, for example, Lindsay might not feel as resonant with the multi-passionate because she actually doesn't have the 34, the gate 34 or in a channel or just as a gate. But she's still going to be multi-passionate because she's got a lot of energy to kind of focus on different things. But she probably will feel better sticking with something until she's really like, you know, smashed it out of the park or got it to a point where she feels good. Does that resonate?
Yeah.
100%.
That makes sense. I would label Lindsay as a little more maybe like focused. I'm like all over the...
Yeah, to a fault for sure. Like I will drill something way past when I should stop and take a break. But it does sound like what both of you, how you felt like you wore a different type than you are for a minute or wanted to. It sounds like the more you know and understand about the type and yourself, the more that you kind of accept it and understand that it is you, because it sounds like the more that you kind of dug into what an MG really is and what they actually do, you are more welcoming of it, right, Kels? Maybe? And you were kind of like found parts of you that did resonate with it?
Yeah, especially the permission giving of the multi-passionate, because I always just like judge myself on that part of like, oh, you're too outside of the box. You need to dial in on one thing in order to be successful. You shouldn't be having your energy so scattered. You shouldn't be dropping one thing to pick up another thing as quick as you do. And when I learned all these things about my design, I was like, oh, I'm literally designed to just like move on when I'm bored. Cool. Yeah. I will do that with pleasure.
I'd love to just respond to something Lindsay said as well, you know, about how we, you know, getting to know our type. The thing about type is the type is just the jumping off point. Okay. So it's just this first point where we identify our strategy, our signature, our not self theme, and kind of how our aura feels and works. However, the deeper we go, we all have different energy within us. So there's more projected energy in a human design chart than any other energy. So we all have projected energy. You know, one of the reasons why I thought I was more projector was because I was really identified with my gate 18, which is a very projector gate. So although I'm a manifesting generator, I have projector energy within me. So it's the same for all of us, you know, like there's going to be, the deeper you go into your design, the more you're going to be like, oh, wow, that's projector energy, that's manifested energy, that's generated energy. So each gate has, you know, that overarching theme as well. So the deeper we go into our design, the more we're like, wow, okay. So there are, even though I'm an MG, so I'm always in response and I'm informing, but I don't have to wait for a formal invitation. Whenever I'm using my gate 18 energy, I do, because I find that my energy flows better if I have a formal invitation. And the gate 18 is the gate of correction. It's something that I use a lot in the coaching space. So how did I put boundaries around it? Well, I didn't coach anyone who A, didn't ask me to, or didn't pay me money for it, you know? So there was a really clear boundary that I was invited to share what I saw or share what I knew. So this is the thing with human design, is often when we learn type, we will resonate with the different types because of how much of that energy also lives in our design. It's just not our, you know, like our macro guidance system.
That makes so much sense. I'm taking notes for the show notes as
yeah, I love that.
Ooh, why your design might not resonate.
I love it. And also it's like, oh, it's just got so much more complicated. I just need you. Can you just move in with me? And then you can just like explain it 10 times a day. Cause
sure. You know, the one thing I want to say to you, Lindsay, is you're a 6'2" profile, right?
Yeah.
So what you want to do is you want to stop trying. You want to follow what's easy. You're a line 2. You're natural. You got to follow your natural talents. You've got to follow what's easy. Now, you mightn't know what that is because it comes easily to you. You don't value it. So it's going to be the thing that Kelsey goes, oh my God, Lindsay, you have to share this. You're so good at that. Can you help me with this? They're their projections that are happening, your line 2 projections that are literally telling you this is energy that's ready to be shared. So with your human design experiment, one of the things I would experiment with is, where's the easy place to go in my design? Where's the easy experiment? What feels really easy? What's the thing that I'm like, I'm lit up, I'm excited, I've got energy for this, and it feels easy. And if you start playing around with your design that way and follow the easy train, I think you will find that it's not complicated at all, and you can just follow the easy bouncing ball.
Oh, I love it. Kelsey, you have to tell her how we started the podcast.
I'm dead. Okay, so Lindsay wanted to call the podcast Let It Be Easy, which she doesn't really do, ironically. This is her medicine of like always trying to remind herself of like, Lindsay loves to overcomplicate things, add extra steps. I'm like, girl, we don't got to do all that. Like, let's make it easier, right? And so that is hilarious that you said that, because that's what she needs. That's the reason biggest soul medicine. Thank you for saying that.
The reason we have a podcast is because I got approached with it and I was like, and Kelsey was like, no, we're doing it. And I was like, okay. So I got it.
And that's it right there. That's the line 2 projection field. You know, like the line 2 is like, yeah, I don't really want to come out of my cave and share this stuff. But if people are projecting it onto you, that's when you check in. Like, actually, I have energy for this. My sacral's given me a yes. And, you know, and you've created it in a way that, that feels really good to you, you know, doing it with friends. So, yeah, it's totally in alignment with your design.
Match made in heaven, as we always say.
And Lindsay, she has a podcast, the Human Design Podcast, so she can be in your earbuds every day.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go. Shameless plug, which we're about to be on her podcast as well. So you should go and check out that episode because, 1, you're going to love her podcast. You need to subscribe. 2, it's going to be awesome. We're about to record it. And before we wrap up, I'm just wondering, are there any other messages on your heart or mind? It could be related to what we talked about or totally unrelated to what we talked about for the people resonating with this episode.
So ultimately, I suppose the reason why I do what I do is because we are living in a time in history where the old model doesn't work. This model of authority that someone outside of us knows what's best for us, we know doesn't work. And we are in this huge transitional phase where we have to wake up. We have to wake up and realize the power that lives inside of us. You know, I went to see Greg Braden a few months ago in the US, and one quote that, like, it's almost in my mind every day is, we are just about to give our humanness away to technology before we really understand the power of what it is to be human. Ooh. And yeah, right? And human design for me is the quickest way that we can take our power back. The quickest way that we can go, hang on a second, like, I learn my design, I resonate with this thing. I'm like, how do you know that about me? There's got to be truth to it. And then all of a sudden we start to love, trust, and accept ourselves. As soon as we love, trust, and accept ourselves, and that's our internal reality, then we can only create that in our external reality. So the thing that I think is so important is everyone needs to know that they are uniquely divine and important. And the sooner they take their power back, the sooner they learn to love themselves and raise their consciousness. We know at a global level now that we must raise our consciousness if the human race is going to survive this hiccup. You know, we're all busy being distracted by things that don't matter. But the most important thing is that we raise our consciousness. What does that mean? It means that we must operate from love, not fear. And we're so conditioned to operate from fear. And for me, that's why human design is so important right now. I feel like it's, you know, being an MG, it's the hack. It's the shortcut. It's the way that we can get to a place of living full permission ourselves, our authenticity. And in that process of us doing that for ourselves, as we raise our consciousness, we raise the consciousness of hundreds of thousands, millions, maybe even billions of other people that don't have what we have. And that is the awareness to be doing this thing. So yeah, I think it's super important that we all start to really get to know the power that lies within us.
I think you said it so beautifully, and I'm probably going to title the episode this: Loving, Trusting, and Accepting Yourself. That's
beautiful.
The goal. That's your goal. I mean, that's one of our huge goals at High Vibe. Now I can't tell you how many episodes we have on those 3 topics. So yeah.
If only saying it were enough.
I know.
That's why we have full episodes. But there's nothing more magnetic than an empowered soul. And gosh, can you imagine if even a percentage increase of people just empowered on this planet? I can't remember who it was, but one of our guests said that one empowered person affects like 700 people or something like that, or probably more, like thousands of people around the ripple effect.
So,
do you know what I'm talking about?
I know exactly what you're talking about. So I work with these guys that have created this thing called the FLFE, the Focused Life Force Energy. Look it up. It'll blow your mind. And I've had this service since 2019, and I really attribute a lot of growth in all areas of my life to this thing. And so they work directly with consciousness. The scale of consciousness is how they do that. The scale of consciousness is a thing created by Dr. David Hawkins. Again, look him up. He'll blow your mind. One of the best books ever written is a book called Power versus Force. And it'll completely change your perspective on reality. Now, this scale of consciousness, how we identify the scale of consciousness is through muscle testing, kinesiology. And we know that the human race sits just under a point that's called 200, okay? And each point on this scale is an emotion, a certain emotion, okay? I believe it starts at apathy, and then moves into shame and guilt and those sort of things. So most of the global population sit at around 200 or just under 200. And when working with these guys, they calibrate everybody. Now, we know that people like the Dalai Lama, he sits at 800 on this scale.
Pretty high.
Yeah, pretty high. Pretty high. Like once you get to 800, you're an enlightened being. Now to work, when you first work with these guys, they calibrate you. So they work out where you are on the consciousness scale, because obviously they want to work with as higher consciousness beings as possible. So when they calibrated me, they actually found me at 500. My average across all areas of my life was at 500. And I was like, whoa, like that's big, because when Dr. David Hawkins was writing these books, no one was at that place. And this is just evidence that, they talk about a lot of healers will hit this around this 500 mark. But the thing that he said that is very, this is so, so important, is that because my consciousness is around this 500 point, I don't have to do anything, but my consciousness is raising the consciousness of 600,000 other people just because I'm being me.
Oh.
So at the end of the day, this is what I want everyone to do. I want you to be you, right? You just have to be you. You are beautiful and perfect and incredible and powerful. And we don't need the entire planet to wake up, but we need us to wake up, because we're awake on purpose. It's deliberate. This sentient universe that we live in is very deliberate about evolution. It's the purpose of the universe is to evolve. So as long as the small percentage of the human race evolves, we have the power to bring so much more with us, so many more people with us. And I think that's why I'm so passionate about really getting people to understand the power of being you is the thing that's going to change the planet. Not your doing, not your business, not your parenting style, not your relationship. Wow. It's being you that makes the difference.
Oh my God, Emma, that was so good. I love this. That seriously gave me goosebumps, because just thinking about when we get just little things, if somebody says, oh my God, that was such a great episode, or you made me think differently about this, it just makes me so weird, like dorky. I'm such a dork when it comes to that, because I just get so happy for them. I just want to celebrate, and to know that we're just making a little dent in the global good is so yummy. It's so juicy, Kelsey.
I know. I was like, so juicy, but everything Lindsay hates when I say juicy. Everything you said like fired me up so hard. I feel like I could run a freaking marathon, and I hate running. But I'm with you. You're speaking my language.
Yeah.
Oh, I literally hate running, but I feel like I need to run right now because I have like so much energy in my body. Like, yes, that's why we're doing this, you know?
Yeah. But isn't it cool? You know, like I think the big thing for me is we put so much pressure on ourselves, being taught to put so much pressure on ourselves to, focus on our output, our doing, like, yes, you need the vehicle of the podcast to get your work out there, but people don't listen to your podcast because you have great tips. They listen to your podcast because you two are on the podcast, like sharing, from a human design perspective, like Kelsey, because you're sharing, you're universalizing that line 5, you're sharing all of these solutions, you're sharing information that helps people create strong foundations. You're line 1. Lindsay, you're here literally being a role model. Like the 6-2, you're through the frame of your profile is all about authenticity. Like just be your natural talents and just discover what that means to you and how that impacts your life and share that as a role model. So people are just showing up to see you on your journey. And, both of you are transpersonal. So you're so driven by the other, like how I'm impacting the other. But don't get lost in the doing. The doing's excellent. Don't get me wrong. But it's the being that everyone cares about.
Snaps to that. I'm here for it. I'm going to focus on that more because I could really get lost in the doing.
And we do be getting lost.
If you're an OG listener, we've done several episodes on giving yourself permission to rest. You don't have to be doing all the time, overcoming the addiction to doing. We're human beings, not human doings, right? So that's a theme. So thank you for bringing it up again. And inviting us to be more of ourselves. And everyone who's listening, hopefully you feel that permission slip was just granted at an even deeper level for you. So yay, this has been so fun. I think we're about ready to head over to the Patreon. But before we do that, can you just tell everyone where they can find your podcast, which I know is everywhere, and just wherever people can work with you and find you?
And the book for those not in the
what's your book called? Did you say?
So the book is Human Design Made Simple. It does exactly what it says. Yeah. And lovely. You can find me at emmadunwoody.com is the website. You can get your chart there if you're new. And if you've maybe got your chart somewhere else, I still recommend that you get your chart with us, because when you do, you'll go into an email sequence that will send you to the right episode for your design. So we've set it up so it's very specific to each person that comes through, so you can get the right episode for your specific design. You can find me on Instagram. I'm the Human Design Coach. And of course, the podcast, which is the Human Design Podcast. So, yeah.
Beautiful. Yay. And all that is linked in the show notes, guys. So don't worry. You don't have to memorize it. Just scroll down. It's all there. Easily clickable. And Lindsay, anything you want to say before we head over to the Patreon?
I'm really excited to go to the Patreon. I'm excited to just talk to you more. Everybody, thank you for listening. Not much going on over here. I mean, join my membership. I'm not seeing clients at the moment, but join the membership and get all the good stuff. It's at lindsayrobinson.com. Join the Patreon at patreon.com/highvibe, where we're going right now for extended episodes, early VIP access, which I can't stop talking about, and just bonuses and exclusives, and you get to see more of us and chat with us. So that's always fun to do. And of course, you support the show, which helps us keep the lights on. So it's always nice to do.
Do more than that. Helps us shine bright.
Helps us keep the lights on and shine them at like 75 million watt.